of July 9, 2019. Acknowledge that we are meeting on the lands of the Squamish Nation. We have an agenda. We are running with paper tonight because our computer system is having a problem, so that we are not paperless as we might like to be, and hence we have lots of paper. We have some additions to the agenda. Item 7.2 is recommendations coming forward from the July 9, 2019 Special Planning and Development Committee minutes. And this is 7.2. One will be the Affordable Housing Project proposal. That's 571 Shaw Road. And then there is going to be a notice of motion tonight, and that'll come under the notice of motion section. Council has all those papers they need on that? Okay. Then motion to approve the agenda as amended. Councillor Kroll, Councillor D'Andrade, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, it's amended. So we'll launch right in. First recommendation of the agenda is that the minutes of the council meeting of June 18, 2019 be adopted. Move by Councillor Kroll. Councillor Ladwig.
I have a comment on them or an edit.
Yeah, now we can discuss them. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Discussion?
It just says that I was there and I wasn't.
Did you want to be there, though?
I really wanted to be there, actually.
Okay. Well, we'll change that. Thank you. So adopted as amended. Then, okay, Councillor Kroll, Councillor Ladwig. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. And the special minutes, special council meeting June 25, 2019, recommendation they be adopted. Councillor Ladwig, Councillor Kroll, all in favor? Thank you. Any business arising from those minutes you'd like to bring forward? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item of business. No, I thought I heard someone speak outside. Yeah. Yep, that's the, I'm sorry, I saw that as the next item. That's right. 2019 UBCM Convention meeting requests. Has everybody had a chance to consider that? Now, if you look in the correspondence file this week, there is a document there on the appointments, on the meetings, and the meetings with the Premier and cabinet ministers have to be determined and notified to them by July 17. A meeting with the Minister of Municipal Affairs is also July 17th. And meetings with staff, provincial staff, the deadline is August the 23rd for that. And the easiest one is provincial staff, because when you go there, if you've decided at a later date that you want to have a meeting, you can just go to the booking table and actually book it. And they'll look for an empty spot. So it's not as important. But meetings with ministers, we have to make that request in advance. One of the cautionary item tales with UBCM is you not get overly bound by meetings, because you do actually want to be in the conference. And the meetings aren't always in or near the conference center. So sometimes you find yourself you're missing an hour here or 2 hours there, and there might be something really important on the debates that you wanted to attend, and but you're at a meeting, and so that what we want to do then is decide, do we all need to go to the same meeting, or there's also the meetings that are going to be arranged by the regional district, and we can share in those meetings as well. But we had identified the Ministry of Forest Lands. And to talk about aquifer protection, and talk about the need to ensure that our aquifer up on Mount Elphinstone receives protection. And I'm also, as I say, concerned about the amount of industrial activity that's taken place in that area. So that was one meeting we had discussed. I agree you weren't there when we discussed that, but one meeting we had discussed that we should request. I don't know if there are any other ministerial meetings that Council would like to have specifically. Councillor Kroll?
There was discussion with the Ferry Advisory Board. There was a bunch of correspondence going back and forth between the Ferry Advisory Board and the Chamber of Commerce, and Director Pratt sort of intervened and said, we need to, your time with the ministers is brief. We've got to go to the minister with,
Okay.
one voice.
I can check and see if the SUID has requested that meeting on that one.
Director Pratt had indicated that the request was there. It was just the directive was that everyone go with one voice.
Exactly.
There's no sense three groups going with three different voices.
No, and that's the key to coordination at this time, is we understand what the issues are, and again, it's not the case that 5 members of council or 4 members of council need to go. You just need to be represented at that meeting as the town of Gibsons, and not just the board sort of thing. So we'll coordinate with them on that. Are there other? Yeah. Councillor Ladwig. Yeah.
So that's great, but I'd like to, when you meet with the minister, you only have, I think, 15 minutes per meeting.
Yes.
And so you need to know what's on their agenda specifically.
Yeah.
I have drafted a letter for the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure requesting a $500,000 subsidy for foot passenger ferry service until we get hourly sailings on Route 3. And we met with her at UBCM in 2017. I want to follow up with her now that we've done all our research to find out what that costs. We've got the service providers here that are willing to consider it, and so I want to have that discussion with her. I don't know specifically that's what is on the agenda, so I'm tabling that now, and I would love it if the SCRD and Seashell would accompany that discussion, but I want that on the agenda.
Well, there's a board meeting on Thursday. I'll make sure I raise that. The types of issues that are contained in our package here tonight of the resolutions are the kinds of things I think they were going to take to the minister directly as well. Okay. So that and clearly you want to be part of that discussion and part of that meeting. Yeah. Okay, so I'll make sure that we express that on Thursday.
Thank you.
On that. Okay. And if not, we will follow up with our own request to the minister.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Other meetings? Ministerial meetings? Housing? Do we? Not yet. Okay. Yeah. How about the Minister of Municipal Affairs? Do we want to meet with her? She is Municipal Affairs and Housing, but do we want to meet with her generally, or? We can request it, and then what we'll do is give some broad strokes to staff and ask them to come up with a briefing note on the issue we want to discuss.
Okay, well, I'm just going to table this concept, and it's not well fleshed out in my mind, but some of the discussions we've been having about effective protecting staff and council from respectful dialogue, and the whole issue of bullying, and feeling like perhaps the community charter doesn't have tools in place to properly protect any of us or the public, and just wondering whether or not that's something that it's certainly not just our community that struggles with this. Communities across British Columbia often have, and so I don't know if that is an appropriate place to table this, but I'm putting it out there as recognition that perhaps the tools aren't effective enough. Yeah,
I'm not aware of it's been a discussion that's come up before. CIO, are you aware of that as a discussion before?
Within the UBCM?
At UBCM, yeah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not aware specifically. We could do a little bit of research on that.
Yeah.
And just to see if there's anything either already that's been considered. Because I know their code of conduct has made its way through UBCM, actually came out of that. Yeah. So I don't know to what extent that covers, because it's not just public just yet. But.
So it'll be a good discussion. Yeah. Councillor Diandra?
Regarding the Ministry of Forestry,
yes.
Are we using the same approach? I know the town of Gibsons will be leading the water governance. I think this is related to water, right? Are we forming the delegation and getting their feedback, and we are going as a single voice, or we are going independently?
We would let the regional district know that we have requested a meeting and the purpose of our meeting, and if we want to make it broader, if they will ask to make it broader. But I'm more particularly concerned with we have a designated reserve over the area, but that doesn't really mean a lot in terms of what can be done up there. So I want to make sure that we can harden that.
Yeah.
And so I want to be specific to our area. Now, there may be other broader issues with forests, and the regional district, I know, has a number of issues. Okay. But I'd like there to be a specific issue with Gibsons for that area.
I will not be able to attend this specific. Otherwise, I would be happy to be there.
That. But that would be 2 meetings, possibly 3 initiated by us. And for our first time at UBCM, I think that I'd be comfortable with that, especially when we can tag into other meetings, and then we can make staff appointments while we're there. We don't have to know everything right now, and done that many times, so that we can do that. So Councillor, Ledwig?
I just wanted to ask, do you know if the SCRD is planning to talk about Highway 101? Like, is that on their...
Talk about what, sorry?
Talk about Highway 101 with probably Claire Tavina.
Transportation?
Is that on their books?
It's in their resolutions, I believe, and I don't know if they made that as a specific request yet, sort of thing. But we'll follow that up on Thursday. Okay,
if you wouldn't mind, when you do talk to them about my other request with her, if we could do both of those, if it's not already scheduled.
Sure. Yeah, okay. And, I know that, I won't say what I know.
It's always good to plug in.
That's right. No, it doesn't hurt at all. We sent them a letter and we'll just follow up with a conversation. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, so we will follow up with those 2 meetings specifically, and possibly a third, and possibly a fourth if transportation is not covered another way. I believe it is with the regional district, but Thursday I'll be able to confirm, because we'll be having the same discussion there. Councillor Kroll?
The transportation sort of also interfaces with your concern with forests about, if they're going to extend the highway, it's going to cut through the sort of mapped aquifer area. So there's a bit of overlap there too between forestry and transportation. That everyone's on the same page that it has to be protected.
Okay. Anything further into that for now? And corporate officer, you have enough information right now?
Yes, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go down next to delegations, and Diane Sanford, welcome. And we're going to discuss the Salish Sea Nearshore Habitat Recovery Project regarding eelgrass. Easy for me to say. I think about glass sponges and eelgrass. I'll just let you talk about it.
There's a relationship.
Sorry?
So, let's do this. Can I do this? I'd like to introduce Fiona Beattie, who is one of my colleagues, and she is responsible for the Howe Sound area of the Salish Sea Nearshore Habitat Recovery Project. So we are co-presenting this evening because I'm the regional coordinator for the Seasheld Inlet area, Seasheld, for the same project. Okay.
All right, so thank you all for having us today. Diane and I are very excited to be able to speak to you about some of the work that we're doing in this region and about some of the ecological and human values that are associated with nearshore environments. So before going too much into eelgrass, we thought we'd take a step back and talk about the nearshore and why it's important. So first of all, when we say nearshore, we're talking about the area on land along the water, the beach, the intertidal zone, which is the area between high tide and low tide, and then the upper subtidal region. So these areas are extremely important ecologically. They provide a habitat for a host of different terrestrial and aquatic species, and they are also quite unique in that they're the land-sea interface. So these ecosystems are very connected in the sense that what happens on land has a direct impact on the aquatic environment. For example, any trees or plants that line the shoreline can provide nutrients to our aquatic environments, our marine environments. They can provide food by insects falling into the water that fish then feed on. So we tend to kind of separate terrestrial and marine zones, but this is one region where they're very connected, and what we do on land has a significant impact on the ocean. They're also where humans tend to congregate. We love living along the shoreline. We love accessing the water. Beaches are where we connect to the ocean. So these areas tend to bring in a higher degree of potential human activity, potential human conflict, but also they're a great opportunity to educate people on marine values and to start that conversation with different user groups, because we tend to have a pretty strong affinity with these regions. And finally, within Howe Sound, these areas, eelgrass meadows, are quite unique. I'll show some maps later on in the presentation, but Howe Sound is predominantly rocky shorelines, and so when we have beaches and areas that eelgrass grow, it's important that we understand that that is unique. These are very productive ecosystems, and we want to be able to have that more holistic vision, that what we have here is not the same as what we have in another part of the Sound, so that might add value to wanting to protect it and ensure that these ecosystems can thrive.
Okay, so now my turn. Eelgrass. Well, I'm assuming that you all know quite a bit about the stuff. We are blessed on the Sunshine Coast in that we have, especially on the outer coast and Seashell Inlet itself, there are enormous areas of eelgrass still. And of course, the need for more recent data on those areas of eelgrass as well. Yes, ecological value and uniqueness. So we're blessed in that we have not lost great areas as other areas in our coastline has. And of course, those eelgrass beds are producers of oxygen, and they are also filter systems for marine sediments. They also are producers of carbon sink. There's carbon sinks, and they're very valuable to humans, even though we may not like to swim in those areas. And back in the day, people used to, rip the eelgrass out so they didn't have to swim in it. They are incredibly productive areas. So when those salmonids head down from the streams and they're heading to the ocean, and they're getting used to the ocean salt water, they are learning to eat seafood, quotation marks. They are using that eelgrass as a site that is for protection, or for shelter. They're using that area for food. They're learning the ocean sources of food, and they are using them as migration corridors as well. So those beds are safe havens where they can swim along and move along in the shoreline areas under protection. Eelgrass beds are vulnerable to disturbance. Fiona mentioned briefly that what happens on land affects what happens down on our shorelines. See lots of examples of that on the coast these days, unfortunately, where lots that are on a steep slope close to the ocean's edge, where we all like to live, the trees are completely taken off. And as we've seen in the last few weeks, having gravel and things coming down roadways and down hillsides and just washing down. Now, not forgetting that material doesn't necessarily stop at the land's edge. So a lot of the sediments and debris will actually head out to the shorelines where those eelgrass beds exist. So eelgrass is resilient in that it will captivate and it will ground some sediments, but of course everything has a limit. And so with excessive sedimentation, eelgrass beds are definitely affected. I think that's it for that one. Yes. Oh, it came in sideways. My apologies, it came in sideways. Mm-hmm. This gives you an idea, there you are, of how big an area of the coast. In 2001, I began mapping eelgrass. And this is some of the areas. There is the pinky color, and there's a purple color, and I apologize, it didn't come out well as being sideways. But you're seeing Seashell Inlet, and you're seeing you can see that there's a lot of eelgrass in that area. And that mapping there was the BC Marine Conservation mapping, which was done, which is the dark color. That was done, I'm just trying to think how long ago, in the early 90s, and that information is out of date, but it was also done with flyovers. And so not ground truth material, but basic information as to where it is. That was the important starting point for us, though, because that gave us an idea of where to begin the work that we have been doing on and off since 2001. The pink that you'll see on there, which I apologize for not showing up as well, is the mapping that we have actually done on the Sunshine Coast. And you can see us way down there in the bottom left corner in Gibsons there at the harbor. Okay. Any questions about that? Yeah.
So sorry. So is it the purple that we're seeing is the eelgrass? Is that?
Yeah, actually, it's both. Okay, so this is two mappings that happened. Okay, so the BC MCA Marine Conservation Atlas mapping is the darker color, and it's unfortunate it doesn't show well in this slide. I apologize. The lighter pink, purpley pink, is the mapping that has been done by the Seagrass Conservation Working Group.
Okay, but all those, the purple and the pink, are all eelgrass.
Yes, they are. So remembering that information is limited as to when it was done, right? So things do change with this stuff. Okay.
Awesome. So here we have a close-up of Gibsons Harbour, as well as the islands around this region, Keats and the Paisley Island Group in southwest Bowen. Again, eelgrass here is outlined in pink. So you can see that in this part of Howe Sound, there's actually quite a lot of eelgrass. This mapping was done in 2014 to 2015 by Diane, as well as by the Islands Trust. So Gibsons Harbour has quite a nice meadow. That's what we call when eelgrass grows in kind of a continuous stretch. It's an underwater meadow. And these meadows provide habitat and food for a whole host of different invertebrate and fish species, as well as the birds and the other creatures that eat those animals. The native eelgrass species is Zostra marina, and over 394, or around 400 species have been documented in eelgrass meadows in our region. So they're they're called foundation species for that region. They provide, they're a foundational species for nearshore habitats. So the pink is in this region, and then if we zoom out to Howe Sound, now it's outlined in red, you can really tell that the eelgrass tends to cluster in this kind of southern, it does work. Okay, so the southern region of the Sound, whereas all along this shoreline up in Squamish and around Anvil and the north side of Gambier, there's really not that much eelgrass. It's quite rocky. This area actually hasn't been mapped, so we need to ground truth that, and work will be done this summer to do so. But when you look at the shoreline type, it doesn't really look like it will support that much eelgrass. Eelgrass likes to grow in shallower, more protected bays with softer sediments. So that's kind of added incentive for nurturing the eelgrass that does grow around this area. As Diane mentioned, it's incredibly important for ecological reasons in that it houses many different creatures, but it also sequesters carbon. It produces 10 liters of oxygen in one day. 1 meter squared will do that. And it's been estimated that 1 hectare of eelgrass in the Salish Sea provides $81,000 in ecosystem services per year. So it's quite significant for those various regions.
So the project that we're working on now is under the Oceans Protection Plan with the federal government, and this began in 2017. Now this was a fourfold project. So Howe Sound, Seashelt, Burrard Inlet, and Gulf Islands. Okay, so a very large project. So we came in second year. First year was the Gulf Islands only, and then we came in second year. So first year was a learning curve, and it was the perfect time to branch out after the first year had been tried, and so we carried on from there. So 2018, Fiona started in Howe Sound, and I started in the Seashell area, and our project depends on community involvement. So the huge part has been community involvement. First Nations, community, and our group working together. And so this is how this project has been run so far. So here we are, we're in 2019, third year, and what we've done is we've been working, connecting with our local First Nations. We've been working with bringing in local community organizations that are intimate with the area, finding local knowledge, background information, and also involvement from those groups in the areas. Transplants, interestingly enough, Fiona's list is there. Tilican Bay is mentioned as one, but we also had prior separate projects doing planting in areas close to sea shelf for about the last, I'm going to say about 5 years. So this isn't, for this particular area, in sea shelf area, it's been a continuation. And Fiona's been pretty busy doing lots of areas in the Howe Sound.
So the purpose of the project is to restore nearshore habitat quality, and we do three main activities. The first is eelgrass transplant. So we take eelgrass from a healthy meadow and we bring it to a region that has very patchy eelgrass or no eelgrass, a few strands, places that we think can be restored. The second activity we do is we remove subtidal debris that is smothering habitat currently. So Diane in the Seashell Inlet removed a bunch of debris last year. And then the third activity we do is marine riparian restoration. So planting native species along our shorelines that can shade beaches so that forage fish embryos don't burn up, and that can help restore that land-sea connection that we spoke about earlier.
That's right. So looking at this, mentioning the 5.23 tons of debris, you probably read about that in the paper. That was done over 15 days with 2 divers and a dive master, and the cooperation of community and local governments. So that's super important. And we're hoping to do more because there's still a lot more to be done. And an important thing in Seashell Inlet is, of course, derelict vessels. And I'm spotting some here as well. That really upsets me because often those vessels are anchored or moored in some various way in eelgrass beds. So what we're looking at right now in Seashell Inlet is there's one specific vessel that we want to get out of there. And unfortunately, it's not a simple process. So we're working on that now.
And then the top picture is a picture of a transplant we did at the beginning of this year. We did 2, one in Cotton Bay on Gambier and one in Plumbers Cove on Keats. And that's about all. One of the, I guess, a couple key messages to take home are certain ways to protect eelgrass would be to encourage boaters to anchor deeper than 8 meters. That depth that's sort of one of the depth range limits for eelgrass to grow. It does need light, so it tends to be found in shallower depths. Also to encourage people to use eco-friendly products on land so that we're not letting pollutants wash into the bay, and encourage boaters to abide by proper sewage treatment standards, I think.
One final note. So yeah, it's really important to, and this is what I've been harping on for a long time, is to have those no parking zones. I think it would be as simple as that. If you know the depths where you've got your eelgrass growing, and you know that shading is going to kill it or cause fragmentation of the beds, and a fragmented bed is a bed that is at risk. Okay, so once they become fragmented, there is a high probability of degradation of the bed, and if there any further stressors come along, that bed can be heavily impacted, if not disappearing over time. So it's really important that we, and I've been working hard on this one, to try and educate people about the simple things they can do, such as just anchoring a little further out, or permanent mooring buoys that you know are not in eelgrass beds, or the swing of those vessels, because that over time will have the same effect, the same negative effect. So it's very important that we keep in mind the simple things we can do and the education we can get out there to make sure we're doing the right thing, because this stuff is very valuable.
Thank you.
Dan, can you put the slide up that shows Gibsons Harbor again as much as you can?
Yeah, it's back up.
There, that's good. Yeah, thank you. Just hold that one up there. So, Councillors, you have questions? Comments? Councillor D'Andrade?
Thanks for the presentation. I am aware that the temperature here in the harbor has increased in 1 degree. What's the effect on eelgrass? I would assume that they are quite resistant, but do you have any idea?
It's pretty resilient.
It's pretty resilient.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So eelgrass. I shouldn't put that away. There we are. So eelgrass is pretty resilient stuff. It does have limitations with salinity and pH. Temperature is, okay, I can give you the range, is -6 Celsius to 40.5 Celsius. The optimum, so this is what it really likes, is 10 Celsius to 20. Okay, so those temperatures they've got a pretty good range. So for that, not a problem. But do remember, decreased shading along shorelines will increase your temperature significantly. Excessive sediments or nutrients, too many nutrients coming down as well, will have negative effects on the stuff. Yeah.
Councillor Ludwig?
Thank you for that. That was excellent. I actually have a question for staff, through you.
Yeah.
I remember, and my memory's not very good here, it was 2 or 3 years ago, Diane and I were both in this room, and I believe that it was the recreational water license was being examined at that time, and the issue of where we could restrict anchoring was kind of on the discussion. Do you remember that? I'm sorry if I'm challenging you. Could you let us know where that's at?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The area within the harbor is under a recreational water lease, which the town holds. And part of that lease, there's a Schedule A, and that's what was in front of council, was that schedule. Because within it, and with the work that Diane has done over the years, it includes the mapping that's been done and sort of defining the areas. And what we're trying to do, in essence, is ask council to define those areas and better regulate the relationship between anchoring and protection areas for these beds. That got sort of in front of a committee, if I recall, but never really got it all the way through council. But we intend to certainly bring that back for your consideration, because that still needs to get done. And you also have discussed, or at least considered in your budget opportunity to work with the Marine Education Center on environmental monitoring, and sort of which is something that's been lacking over sort of on a regular basis as well. So we were aware that the beds are there. Certainly think that's important work to define, and we also have other uses such as the recreation around Armour's Beach. There's also some anchoring buoys that have been around for recreational purposes, sort of putting all the pieces back together in a way that allows us to have a vibrant economy within the harbor, and yet have also a healthy environment to be as well.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I was here long ago about that. And what I had seen when it was brought to my attention was the depth. Originally, we had said 10 meters. We'd said that our recommendation was 10 meters offshore at zero tide. And that was because that is the potential area where eelgrass is growing. So that was the no-go zone, basically. What I have seen is a proposal, I suppose, for that to be changed to 5 meters. My alarm bells went off when I saw that. So I have been digging. I've been digging since then. And, I mean, eelgrass, depending on where in the world you are, it can be down to 90 meters. It's amazing, depending on your light penetration. But for this area, with my digging that I've done, 8 meters is a number that seems to be safe for this area. So 5, you would be definitely intruding onto sensitive habitat. 7 to 8 meters in that range, you would have a very good odds that you are not, impinging on eelgrass beds. So that would be my comment on that.
Councillor Ludwig? Yeah.
When you say 8 to 10 meters, are you talking about depth?
Yes. Okay.
Right.
So
we just need to clarify that so people understand it's not out from the high water mark.
No, it's because often you'll have that shelf, right, and then it'll start to drop, and that's when your eelgrass will be, right? It'll be right at that drop, and it can be a fringe. So what you're looking at, say, in the northern section, the long section up top, thank you for that, is basically a fringing bed, okay? The bed that you are looking at off the bay itself, which is, by the way, a restoration project. When all of that marina went in back in the days, and I've been fortunate to be able to speak to people that lived here then, and that lived in that area, and that was a huge eelgrass meadow. Okay, so in compensation for that being dredged out and destroyed, basically, there's one little fragment of eelgrass inside that. The wall, what would you call it? The breakwater. Thank you. And so in that outside section that you see just to the left, but the big section, is a restoration project that was done in the early 1980s. Okay. The other section of eelgrass is around the marker buoy, around the can, the bit you see jutting to the what? Yeah, there, that one, you bet. So that one is around the marker buoy, and that would be naturally occurring, and as well as around, of course, you see it going towards the gap, going around the corner, and the Georgia Beach, and the other beaches along the way. So yeah, a bit of history on that area.
I was interested in the cleanup you did in the Seashell. We haven't been able to do that in our harbor, and I recall approaching actually DFO years ago about cleaning up in the harbor, and we were simply told that the shopping carts and the tires and everything that's down there is habitat, and we couldn't actually move it away. Yet you've successfully done that in Porpoise Bay. And what's the difference?
So I think politically speaking, we have a different will happening.
Okay.
So yeah, basically the Oceans Protection Plan is sort of the main thrust that's come in to try and put a focus back onto the oceans and to not use them as our garbage can any longer.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and so in the past, if you don't have the will to do that, the money to back it up, it doesn't happen.
Because you had volunteer divers down there and volunteers taking it away and all sorts of things.
Well, we have our own dive team. These have to be WCB certified, and we have to have our dive tender. So those are non-negotiable. Okay. So they're a team that come, and they've been doing it for years, and I've known them for years, and they're good at what they do, and they're fast.
So are they a volunteer team?
We have volunteers that do, as you see in the top picture up there, that do the washing.
Okay.
Do you want to see that really quickly? Do you want to flash forward? Okay. Just want to show you really quickly. There we're mapping. There we are. Okay. So this is what we do.
Right. Okay.
Okay. And this is what the volunteers do.
Yeah. Okay.
So the divers take those chutes, they bring them up, and the volunteers come and they washer them. And those washers, over time, break down in the salt water. Gelation happens, and that actually helps to fertilize the plants. So as well as anchoring over time, it will actually help them with minerals, heavy metals.
To speak to your point about subtidal debris removal, though, this project has another 2 years running, and we are continuing to solicit feedback from community members on sites within Howe Sound that we should be conducting our restoration activities. So if we were to do a survey this summer and find a substantial amount of debris in the harbor, and if we were confident in the community buy-in that eelgrass would be protected in this region if we were to remove that debris, or maybe do a transplant here, then it would absolutely be a potential restoration site.
Can eelgrass survive inside the harbor, or is effectively, because the salinity is quite different inside the harbor?
It is. You start inside the breakwater?
Yeah, inside the breakwater.
Yeah. There is a little bit that has survived just inside that breakwater. It is fairly resilient stuff, but it really depends. It likes that lack of current, and it likes that protection, but it also doesn't want nutrification or too many nutrients. So when you start to see some of the stuff that I've seen floating around in there, and also...
Well, that's what I worry about,
yeah. And more of a dominance of the filamentous algae. Yeah. That's something I've been around long enough, too, that I didn't see years ago. I see it now. So it's maybe, maybe not. I couldn't answer that one.
Yeah. It would be interesting to clean the harbor bottom, though, and get rid of the batteries and the shopping carts and the tires.
Yes. I mean, there's value in doing that just because of the things that leach for long term.
Right. Yeah. Councillor Kroll?
This is maybe to staff. Should we be reviewing our water leases where mooring cans have been placed in the area between the government wharf and Armour's Beach, and the proximity they are to these grass beds?
Would you mind repeating that question?
No problem. To staff, should we be reviewing the leases we have for mooring cans between the government wharf and Armour's Beach with respect to these eel beds?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. To my knowledge, the town or the Harbour Authority doesn't have any within that area. There are a couple of private ones, and those are folks that have leases directly with the province. And so I'm not sure of our ability to move them, but certainly it's worthwhile following up just from that perspective. But we don't have direct authority to go there and move their buoys under a provincial lease.
Thank you.
Councillor Diendrath?
My understanding is the egress have been mapped a long time ago, so we need to do another mapping, right? Is it something in the budget? I believe we have, right?
Through Mr. Mayor, I think Diane is probably better prepared to answer when a new one should get done. I can tell you that, to my knowledge, there's nothing on the budget this year, but I think that hasn't stopped Diane in the past. So.
That's true. That's going to be happening in Seashelt this year. Come no money or money, it's going to happen because it needs to be done. Seashelt Inlet last mapping was 2012 with a very tiny bit done in 2008, I should say, and 2012 a very tiny section. So it is overdue to be done. Our last mapping was, I believe 2013 was that the report came out. And so, we're looking 5 years, right? Actually, heading 6. And it would be wise, it would be prudent to do so because you do not know what the status is of what you've got there. Last time there was a comparison between 2008 and 2013, and there was actually an expansion in that eelgrass mass. So the polygons were larger, which was really exciting. It would be interesting to know what is going on now, because we've got 6 years almost, right? And what is happening now. So, anytime.
And to that note, as I said earlier, this summer we're planning on mapping out eelgrass distribution along the mainland of the Sound in the areas that haven't been mapped. So it could be feasible that we could come by through the harbour and map it.
Okay. That would be great. And we'll put our boat at your disposal.
Sounds good.
When we buy a boat. But I agree. It needs to be done. We have a meeting, trying to schedule a meeting with the Harbour Authority and on all those the boats and the vessels that do anchor out there in that particular area. They're not part of the Harbour Authority. There's no lease to them. They don't pay anything. They're just hanging in there. And are they on permanent moorage, or are they drop in anchor each time? Do we know? Yeah.
I'm not certain. When you see a boat just outside of, they're not. They're anchoring on their own in essence.
Right. I thought. Yeah. Okay, Councillor Diendrath.
Well, I'm very interested in your offer, so I would like to better understand how we can make it happen. So what would be the procedure? Do we make a motion?
Well, I think the procedure would be to discuss with Fiona outside this meeting and say, how can we schedule this? And because we can't make a motion to schedule her work, so we need to work with her.
I thought the motion to investigate the possibility to discuss. So we don't need a motion. We can just discuss, and then I'll bring next meeting.
Excellent. Good. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. That's great.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. It's very interesting. Yeah.
And if you have questions.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, opportunity now for inquiries. The inquiries at this point are for items that are on the agenda this evening. So if people have items that are on the agenda they wish to speak to, now's the time. Thank you.
Mayor Beamish and council, staff, just like to comment on this eelgrass thing. I'm a boater, and I've been a boater probably for most of my life. I know that the best thing to do is to make rules. I mean, basically, and I don't think moorings with little ropes, cordoning off where the eelgrass is going to help. I think a mooring field is where we should go, and I'm wondering if that's something this town could consider, is a mooring field, and you'll see it done everywhere. And if there's a mooring field, boaters are quite happy to pick up a can because it's no grief. You can sleep at night. You don't worry about your anchor dragging, and it really is a much better thing to do. You can make money, like $20 or $30 a night, which is like good for Gibsons, and the harbor master could probably go out and collect it. It won't deter tourists, and I think it's just the best thing to do. The other thing, I guess, so if you want a question, my question is, will the town consider mooring fields, and therefore you control exactly where boats go and they don't anchor and they're not dragging through that eelgrass?
CAO?
Could it be something?
Do you have a response?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. That famous recreational water lease bylaw, Schedule A. I think the last time Diane was here was because we were attempting to find the right balance between identifying spots for anchoring and protecting the eelgrass beds. And what we didn't get right that time was those depths that Diane was talking about, because we had looked at possibly 2 rows, one at 5 meters and 10 meters. And then after some feedback, we had another look at that, and it just never made its way back. But that's, in essence, what we've been recommending as well. It's just that.
I think you'll get more tourists probably if you have mooring cans, because it's bumpy out there, very bumpy. It's not a great place to anchor, and therefore, cans would be far more desirable for a lot of us boaters. The other thing they talked about was pump outs. There aren't enough pump outs out here. There's nowhere to pump out, literally. If, like in the United States, they have these little boats that go around, honey pots. They're pump out boats. Okay, it's something to look at. Therefore, they go out and service these people on the hook who are, or on mooring cans. Some people might choose to be out there for like 2 months. It happens all over the States. So therefore, you have a way to get rid of this stuff without them just pumping in. No different than the marina that is full, has liveaboards, and those liveaboards, there's a pump out station there. I know, I had a boat there. But let me tell you, very few people use it. Very few people, and it's terrible. Anyway, so those are just my 2 points on that. And anyone else?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just if I can, before Diane leads too, this is not a new issue. I was here as CAO when Diane made the same presentation. I remember it being done at that time. And the issue of where the boats are moored and what boats are moored, has always been. And because we're a harbor, a lot of it is the common law right for some boat owners to actually be able to moor a boat in front of their house. We had that discussion then too, sort of thing. So that so it's not an easy one to resolve, and we don't have the capacity. I don't know if there'd be money in it if we were to assign somebody to go out with a honeypot boat and clean out the boats. I don't if that's a private endeavor. Or, I mean, sorry. Yeah, well, they have them in Tuktoyaktuk. I don't know if they have them here. So there are options, I know, but I think I was surprised to see the number of barges now tied up here in the corner, because it certainly it was a problem back in 2005, and it's a problem in 2020, sort of thing. So it's we just need to bite the bullet and either say go away, but going away takes the business away, and that becomes another challenge for the harbor, actually, because some of those businesses, that's what I hear from the harbor authority. So we'll have that meeting with them. So.
And I just want to take this opportunity. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to take this opportunity to once again put a plug in for a strategic harbor plan.
Yes.
It's come up multiple times through our strategic planning initiatives. I really think it's time that we take a really good look at our marine component of our harbor and talk about the economic opportunities as well as the monitoring requirements and how these things can operate and work together. So we are talking about it as part of our strategic planning discussions.
Councillor Kroll?
A couple of points. The harbor situation is really interesting because they've got a waiting list of 300 people wanting moorage. The marina's looking for more moorage space. So there's obviously a huge demand for more secure boat moorage, and it has to be done sympathetically to the environment. I know our own bylaw officer is having problems with boats, anchored out there that are, hazards to navigation, and she's chasing people around trying to get it dealt with. It's expensive to get rid of a derelict boat. So I think the strategic plan with respect to the harbor, working with the harbor authority to see some envisioning on how they can accommodate more people, it's certainly a source of revenue. It should be looked into.
Thank you.
Hi, Pamela Gironi. My question, I'm surprised, I thought everything ocean was federal. So what control does Gibsons have, and how far out do you...
We have what's called a recreational lease, and that gives us control 300 meters from the shore, right around the boundary of the community. But it's strictly recreational. We don't control some aspects of it, but we are, in the sense of that, when we allow people to use the recreational use, also responsible for the environmental impact of their using it. You might recall several years ago that there was a fisherman fell off a boat, sort of thing. There was a death out there, and his barge sat for a long time on anchor with a bunch of unidentified drums on it. We actually, through our lawyers, had that removed because we just didn't know what the environmental hazard of that was, and nobody was taking control of it. So we actually were able to deal with that at that time as a potential hazard, and that was removed. But yeah, we do have some. We can do things like control the speed. One of our requirements in the harbor is those nasty little single-person boats are not allowed, although they do seem to creep in there once in a while. But they're not actually allowed within the recreational lease. So there's a number of things we can do, and this is something we got to work on. Yeah.
Another question. This is my first time here. Didn't know all this talk was going to be about the eelgrass. But I'm curious that when somebody, and this is for council, when somebody, or if there's any kind of construction going on, any kind of development going on, I would think then would really highly impact what you're talking about in terms of, a sensitive area. And I'm wondering when people come to council, developers come to council, is that something that you're looking at in terms of whatever they're building and how that's going to impact the ocean front?
It can be. When you go to some construction sites, you'll see where they've actually set up bales of hay to catch the gray water as it goes down and clean the water. I mean, the construction site up by my house has got several pods where that water is captured and allowed to settle. So that's the whole idea. So that a project should not be impacting beyond its boundary when there's construction going on. So that is watched by our inspectors and our engineers. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, Donna Thomas from Gibsons. I'm thinking that we're getting a little bit too big for our beaches to try to make it funny. This accommodating anybody and everybody who wants to moor here. I think we're doing it backwards. What we do is we see what our community waters can accommodate, and then that's it. That's the level that we keep it at. We can't be bending over backwards trying to find a way to take care of every boat that wants in. To me, that's just a disastrous way to try to look at it. We're not here to welcome everybody and his dog to fill up the place willy-nilly any old way so that we can keep the tourist money happening. I mean, I'm not saying this very well, but we can slow down, do it right. And then if you get an opening, well, lucky you. There's a lottery. You get to bring your boat in. That's my little opinion.
Thank you. Councillor Dean-Drad?
It's interesting what you're bringing, because that has been one of the discussions of our strategic planning, being in our carrying capacity. So the carrying capacity should also be extended to the water lease area.
I guess what that too is that the eelgrass is so thick when I was a kid, it broke us in the bay here, and we didn't dislike the ground. It was round. We weren't clear about it to go around the block on the other side, like the pedal or something. But the people water, people took all their garbage out of there. They burned the cans and they flattened them, and then they put them in rowboats or whatever, and rolled the others today there and dump them.
We don't do that anymore.
I know. There's an awful lot of iron down there.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for the conversation. And Dan, it's a very interesting conversation, and thank you again for coming, Fiona. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah, we will follow up. Thank you. Okay, we're now on to committee reports. 7.1 is the Special Planning and Development Committee meeting, June 25, 2019, and a recommendation that the minutes be received. Moved by Councillor Ladwig, Councillor Kroll, all in favor? Thank you. And 7.1 is the addition item to the agenda tonight. And for those of you who weren't at the meeting this afternoon, I will read the recommendations here. This is on the affordable housing proposal for 571 Shaw Road, car shares and electric vehicle charging infrastructure zoning amendment proposal. Recommendations that the report titled Affordable Housing Project Proposal at 571 Shaw Road, car shares and electric vehicle charging infrastructure zoning and proposal be received. Well, that was passed. And that the official community plan amendment bylaw number 985-22 2019 be forwarded to council for first reading. And that the zoning amendment bylaw number 1065-48 2019 be forwarded to council for first reading. And that pursuant to section 477 of the Local Government Act, Council has considered official community plan amendment bylaw number 98522 2019 in conjunction with the town's financial plan and waste management plans, and that Council directs staff to work together with the development team to host a public information meeting for the purpose of sharing information about the proposal and collecting feedback on the community's opinion of the proposal, and that staff refers this application to the O'Shea Ocean Mount Community Association in addition to the previously referred authorities organizations for early and ongoing consultation, and that the electric vehicle station option be reviewed when the building bylaw is brought forward for consideration. Those were the resolutions that were approved this afternoon in committee and recommended to come forward to council tonight. Is there, to the Director of Planning.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I just make a recommendation, a change to the OCP and zoning amendment bylaws? Instead of saying be forwarded to council for a first reading, they should say be given first reading.
Be given first reading. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, just for the benefit of those who weren't there this afternoon, Director of Planning, would you just go over the process that is going to happen now on this project and maybe just give a thumbnail sketch of the project, please?
Okay. So the proposal from the development team is to basically develop 70 units of affordable housing on the east portion of 571 Shaw Road, and then the west portion would be dedicated for public assembly uses, so a seniors care facility, community care uses, a park, that kind of thing. The proposal for the affordable housing was basically, I believe, 4 stories of units, and so that's the development proposal on the table. There's some additional zoning amendments being proposed, which is a car share provision. So for developers who are wanting to ask for a variance to parking spaces, so if they want to provide a car share in exchange, they could provide a car share in exchange for 3 parking spaces. So that's being considered by council. And then the electric vehicle charging infrastructure requirement would be for every 10 new parking spaces, 1 EV charging outlet would be required. That's also on the table. And then another part of the zoning amendment would be to allow parks and daycares in all zones instead of specific zones for those uses. There's a quick summary. I mean, at this point, we're at first reading, and the next step would be to have a public open house. And that's scheduled tentatively until resolution tonight for July 24th at Christensen Village from 4 to 6 p.m. And then after that, we would come back to council for second reading and then a public hearing and then third reading and adoption. That's in a nutshell.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. It's the report's not in front of us right now, so that's good. Oh, council, you've heard the recommendations again. Somebody care to move the recommendations? Councillor Kroll, Councillor D'Andrade. Any further discussion? All in favor? Councillor D'Andrade, sorry. Yeah.
I would like just a clarification, because at the end of the meeting, the planning and development, the fellow from the, sorry, I forgot his name, the Christensen, no, the Good Samaritan Society, he came across and he said he has been talking to the Sunshine Coast. I know the fellow from the Sunshine Coast Housing wasn't aware, probably because Dion maybe had the first conversation. I'm just trying to understand if this meeting on the 24th will be, they will be already coordinated, because I know they have some proposals, so I'm a little bit confused, because the society, the Sunshine Housing Society, put a proposal, and then he came after the meeting and said it was in conversation. I just want to understand.
I think that's something for them to square away between them. That's correct, yeah. Our proposal that we're dealing with tonight is from the society. the Housing Society. And they're going to square away the relationship on the land relative to the rest of the land, actually, the Good Samaritan is looking at, and try to work with them. So that's what's being looked at. Okay. So, CAO?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the meetings did happen, and they were productive. The proposal you received today already includes the considerations of the Good Samaritan for their future plan.
Yeah.
But the meeting on the 24th is only about half of the site, per se.
Yeah. Okay, any further discussion? No? Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you. So the 24th of July?
Yes, 24th of July at Christensen Village from 4 to 7 p.m.
Yeah. And just a clarification again, even though it's a proposal for 70 units, the initial proposal is for the first 40, is that correct? Or were they building the full 70?
Yes, so the meeting is going to be about the entire zoning amendment and the OCP amendment. The development team is coming forward with 2 phases, so the development in 2 phases. The first phase would be 40 and the second
30.
phase, subject to financing, I guess, would be the 30.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to put you back to work again, so don't go away. Item 8.1, Director of Planning for the Development Permit, Development Variance Permit 2019-07 for 735 Maplewood Lane.
Thank you, Mayor. So this came to the Planning and Development Committee and previously to Council. This is to enclose an existing carport on a house to allow a 220 square foot addition to an existing 1,500 square foot house. Staff sent out a letter to neighbors within 50 meters of the subject property, and 1 submission was received in support of the application from the tenant. That's it. Thank you. So the recommendation is that the mayor offers an opportunity for the public to comment on the variance permit, and that council authorizes the issuance of the DVP.
Okay, firstly, that the report titled Planning Assistance Report titled Development Variance Permit Application, DVP 2019-07 at 735 Maplewood Lane be received. Councillor Kroll, Councillor Diendrad. An opportunity for anybody to comment on the development permit application. Second opportunity. Third opportunity. Gone. Okay. So thank you. And then the further recommendation, the council authorizes the issuance of development permit number 2019-07. Council would like to make that recommendation. Council Diendrad, Council Ladwig, all in favor? Thank you. That one's approved. The next one is again to the Director of Planning as Development Variance Permit 2019-05 for 714 Hillcrest Road.
Thank you, Mayor. This application is another variance, basically to legitimize the siting of an existing house that's located within the side setback. So the request is to relax the side setback from 1.5 meters to 1.28 meters. And again, neighbors were notified, but for this, no submissions have been received. So the recommendation is to offer an opportunity for the public to comment and for council to authorize the issuance of this variance. Thank you.
And this one is the one where we actually did not authorize the issuance of the variance relative to the ancillary building. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was removed from the variance permit.
Okay, just to the main building. Did any response back on that? Any feedback? Okay.
Nothing was received.
Okay,
no.
Thank you. Okay, so once again, this is a resolution here, so somebody want to resolve that I offer people, the public an opportunity? Councillor Diendrad, Councillor Ledwig, okay, all in favor, thank you. Would the public like to speak to this application? This is for 714 Hillcrest Road. Opportunity for 714, yes? Yeah.
That's okay. I'm Judy Bonkoff and Mayor, Council, staff. I live at 628 Glen Road. doesn't affect me at all. I'm not concerned about that. I'm just concerned about the process of the letters that go out and the circumference around the house, how many feet or how many meters it is, and wondering if we should be considering a larger parameter. And that's my only question.
Good question. What is our current bylaw on that?
The bylaw requires a 50-meter radius from the subject property.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's front, back, sideways. Yeah. So okay. Thank you. Recommendation that council authorize the issuance of DVP 2019-05. Councillor Ladwig, Councillor Crowell, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, Director of Infrastructure Services, Armours Beach piling costs. Mr. Newman.
Thank you, Member Bush. Bringing this back to you fairly quickly here because we last spoke to you on June 18th in regards to this matter, and at that time Council authorized staff to negotiate with Pelagic Technologies for the replacement of the pilings that are either damaged and are now gone or are in poor shape, provided that the pricing fell within established budgets. And we were discussing with Pelagic at the time and did not have all the information available, which is why we went that route. And since that time, Pelagic has obtained three. At the time of the writing report, I said two prices, but they've since received a third price, and the cost of the pilings have exceeded the budget. The original budget that staff brought forward for the 2019 fiscal year was set based on inspecting the pilings and replacing two of them. And then we had subsequent conversations with Pelagic, and after they had done their initial inspection and determined that that 5 out of the 6 pilings were in poor shape. At the time, Pelagic felt that they would probably be able to obtain pricing that would still be within budget. However, I think combination of the price of steel right now, I understand coming out of the States is gone up a fair amount, and also I believe that their pricing was potentially out of date. So we're now coming back and saying in order to replace those pilings, we need to have an increase in the budget. Since the writing of the report, the broken stumps have been removed. So we had 2 pilings that came down in December, and we were concerned about hazards to swimmers. So both of those stumps have been cut down below the mud layer, and the pilings themselves have been moved out to deeper water to be recovered when we potentially do the replace the piles. An application has been made to the federal government for approval for piling replacement, and no approval has been received yet. The contractor again was not anticipating it would be taking that length of time, but so I'm cautiously optimistic that that we might get a reply back and permission from the federal government to replace those. But in the meantime, we are looking for a budget increase, and there was a community amenity contribution, I believe $150,000 made for improvements to Armours Beach, and then we also had some donations from the Rotary as well as a local contractor, Longman. Trying to remember what Longman. Thank you, developments. Also contributed, and so we've used half of that money now, and we did a really decent job on the landward side. So we do have $75,000 left in that, and staff are suggesting that full amount be allocated to improvements this year. We are only short at allowing a contingency of around $60,000 for the proposed works, and so the additional 15 would allow a bit of balance that we could use to improve the log booms that are the log sticks that are the boom sticks that are around there, as well as putting cathodic protection on the pilings that we were tentatively planning for next year. The Pelagic did get 3 prices, so the low price there in Table 1 is $68,400 for the 6 pilings, and they had another price of $76,000 and another one of roughly $86,000. So we've got the lowest price that we can on that, I've provided a diagram on page 69 of your agenda there, showing the temporary location for the float, because of course as we've lost one of our anchor points for the usual location of the float, we can't anchor it there right now. And so we're moving it out to that location on the opposite side of the swim area and a little bit further from shore. It's not the best, but it's the best we can do. Right now the float, we had pulled the float out because we were concerned about damage without that anchor point, and that float right now is awaiting low tide for tomorrow. To be relocated out to Armours, so at least that there's something there for some swimmers to be able to go out there and enjoy being on the water. And if council does approve this budget increase, we would then be somewhat at the mercy of the application to the feds. As well as the availability of the pile driving company. The Pelagic has also indicated that any cost savings that due to shorter required piling lengths would be forwarded on to the town. And they're also looking to see if they can coordinate it with another job that they're working on that also requires pile driving, and there's some potential mobilization savings there. No guarantee on that, but as I say, Pelagic has assured us that they would be, as I say, passing those savings on to the town should they be realized.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to receive the report? Councillor Kroll, Councillor Dean Durant. Discussion. Councillor Ludwig.
So I'm just trying to figure out, what is Pelagic's doing for us? Like, why wouldn't we just go straight to the pile driving company?
They're a dive company, and they're essentially they're a contractor, and so they've made application for us. They've approached the pile driving company. They're overseeing it. Yeah, and they're arranging for the diving team. So, and yes, you're right. Staff could probably do that, but because of our pretty heavy workload that we've got, we have to be able to draw on additional help outside when we can, and this is one of those times.
Okay,
and the markup's not huge on the pilings.
Okay. Okay. And then, if I may.
Yeah, please go ahead.
The drawing that you provided on page 69. So, are we hoping to get to figure D this year? Is that what we're hoping to get to through the issuance of, if we were to approve this budget increase?
What we're hoping to get to really is the replacement of the 6 pilings, and then the new planned rock wall, which is from a different budget. And so that would be in place. And then once we've got the final cost known and gone out for kind of a better design than my little sketch there, then we'd be able to look at what available budgets we've got. But we're not planning on, definitely not planning on doing any more improvements beyond really replacing those pilings, doing the rock wall, and replacing the existing float in its old location this year. Because we will be going back out to the public after the swim season's over, sometime September, October, for input on potential improvements and whether or not they would look like that. And then our final, once we would, by that time, all the costs for pilings will be in, and we'll know what available funding we would have to complete further improvements. Now, I think you're kind of leading to a fair point here, is that we had the $75,000 to actually implement these floats, and we're now using that money to replace infrastructure that we had not anticipated that we would need to.
So we won't have the money to do the docks and everything yet.
Yet, exactly.
Oh, it's disappointing.
But unfortunately, we have examined other methods of anchoring, and it's just not really feasible.
I understand. I have to say, I'm disappointed that Pelagics hadn't done some pricing. You know what I mean? Like before we'd gotten to this place. But
in their defense, and it hasn't changed anything, because I would have come to you on June 18th with the numbers,
right.
And we haven't lost any time because we haven't got approval from the federal government. So we've had a few weeks of nothing happening when nothing could have happened. I don't think it's really changed anything.
Fair point. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor D'Andrade?
I understand that there's $105,000 budget for 2020, right? For the swimming pool.
I don't have those numbers in front of me. I do know that if the number that you're quoting me is correct, only $75,000 of that was community amenity. I'm not sure where the balance was coming from. It may have been a future community amenity, because we did identify some projects in the budget for possible candidates or future amenities from contributions from other developments. So I can't answer your question except to say that there were out of the 2020 budget, $75,000 was all that was available from the community amenity fund.
2019 budget. Or
2020, because we were planning on implementing in 2020.
Okay,
so now we're moving the expenditure up to 2019.
Yeah. So to follow up. But we need the work that was planned for 2020, which was improvement of the swimming pool area.
We would like. We're doing the essentials in 2019 is what we're proposing. Anything beyond that is an increased level of service, and it's something that has been expressed by at least the council in the past to see some additional improvements there. So this year it's a need for the pilings. Next year it's a want. It would be nice to have.
Councillor Prohl.
Just to ask, is this something that might fall within the guidelines of ICE-T, that we might be able to get some additional funding for it as it relates to recreation and tourism?
I don't know if the CAO has a comment on that. I don't.
I'm not entirely certain. They have for a larger project, they have some funding for that. The smaller amounts, around $30,000, that typically are for planning type of exercises, not so much for improvements, but we are regularly looking for opportunities for funding, and ICE-T is one of them, but I can't confirm that at this point.
Council, what you wish? Anybody care to move the recommendations? There's two recommendations: that the removal and replacement of 6 pilings at Armour's Beach be awarded to Pelagic Technologies in the amount of $69,000, and further, the Armour's Beach improvement budget be increased by $75,000 to $124,000, and this be funded from the community amenity reserves. Anybody care to make those motions? Councillor Kroll, Councillor D'Andrade. Further discussion? Okay. See a no? Okay, all in favor? Thank you, that's approved. Thank you. You make a comment now, that's right.
I just want to say for the record, I really like your little layout here. I think it's good. I think it's a good, simple diagram. I like it. I just want to put in a little plug for youth. I used to rent the house right across from Armour's Beach. They love a lot of the teenagers loved climbing one of the pilings and diving off of it. I know that's a liability probably, but they loved it. Like they would do it all summer long. I don't know if you can maybe incorporate a slide off the dock or something, but when we get there, think about that. The youth really enjoy it. They spend all summer there. So
I actually saw another neat detail on a swim float where they had built a bench on the side of it, and so you could sit there and keep your feet in the water for people who are, not quite on the same level as, diving off pilings. Yeah.
I assume the others like these benches too. Council reports. Does any member of council have anything they wish to report? Okay. Councillor Kroll.
On the 21st of June, I attended the opening of the National Indigenous Peoples event that was at the Seaside Centre. It was initially hosted by the Métis, and it was a potluck. So everyone who attended brought food of some form or another, even if they just ran to the grocery store and grabbed something. They had the class from the French school came over, and they were taught jigging. It was a lot of music. Mayor Seegers and Director Pratt were there. And it was just a really nice launch to the Indigenous weekend event that was hosted by the Seashell Nation. Sadly, it wasn't well attended. It started at noon and went to 3, so I think it was sort of an awkward time on a Friday for people. But it was a good event. I'll just mention we had the tour of the recycling depot. If anyone else wants to elaborate on that, I will allow them to do that. I also, because I can't get enough of a good thing, I also attended the Interface Forest presentation that was done at the Gibsons Public Market. It was incredibly well attended. It was standing room only. And sadly, the program went a bit long, so people left before it got in. I think a lot of people had questions that didn't get answered because it just went too long. That was followed promptly on June 26th. I attended the again, it was sort of sequential to the Interface Fire thing. It was the Sunshine Coast Emergency Program Planning Committee. And all the first responders were there. I was at the regional district. The new corporate safety officer, Carolyn Heyman, was introduced. It was great to meet her. They announced the hiring of Matt Trettick, who doesn't start until the 7th of August. And at that time, it was a bit of a concern because there were 2 forest fires going on the coast at the time. So the fact that there wasn't a plan in place for the coast, that came up, and the discussion seems to be, and it's something I think all the communities on the coast need to work together on, is the overall plan. It's estimated to cost around $100,000. Something else that came up out of it, and I think it may be something we should put on our website, is 911 apparently isn't functioning as well as it should be right now. They're understaffed. They're going through some changes. I think we've got some information in our reading file that they're looking to recruit. But what's happening is sometimes people are calling in, they're getting transferred, not necessarily to the right service, and in the end, the right people aren't responding to the incident. It was a big concern of Staff Sergeant Hallam's that things are happening and they should be there and they're not. and they're finding out 20 minutes later or 45 minutes later. So it's really important, particularly with people using cell phones. If you pick up a landline, emergency 911 knows where you are, but they don't with a cell phone. And that's another thing that we should perhaps reinforce on our website, that if a lot of people now are just using cell phones in their homes and not landlines, and if they call 911 and say, help, my house is on fire, and they've lost a connection, they're hooped. So I think that's something we should maybe sort of make public a little more aware of. Later on the 26th, I got to represent the Gibsons Council at the Elphinstone Grad, which I was thrilled to do. It was a really great event. You really sense the sort of heartbeat of the community at an event like that, because, you know, everything is sort of put aside and it's all about the graduates. And it was a great evening. Our two students on council glowed. Sasha, I won't say she made out like a bandit, but she really did very well. She won an incredibly prestigious scholarship, and Jason also received a scholarship. So it was really great to be there and represent the council. On the 28th, it was the first Gibsons night market. And for anyone who was able to attend, it was like just an incredibly well attended event. There were a lot of crafts vendors, food stalls. At quite a number of times during the event, you couldn't move. There were so many people. I know poor Sue had a bit of an issue with it, because everywhere there was a no parking sign, there was a car parked. So it's, you know, I don't know if future night markets, they might look at make shuttle buses or something to get people there, because it is a huge issue with parking. But it was really well attended, and you know, perfect night. It wasn't too hot, and music was great. So that was that. I'll leave the first because there were other people there other than me. And what else we got? Wednesday the 3rd, we had a brief meeting with Jackson Davies, and Dave Douglas was able to meet with us, and Wendy Gilbertson. Next year, 2020, is the 30th anniversary of the Wrap of Beachcombers. And then in 2022 is the 50th anniversary of the launch of Beachcombers. So towards the 2022 event, we're looking to start the ball rolling in 2020 towards the 2022 event. We have some issues. The Persephone is likely going to have to be moved because of the redevelopment of that property. There's interest in, it needs probably quite a bit of work done to it. So there's a whole bevy of things. It's potentially a great opportunity for the town of Gibsons to get involved with film tourism. You know, there has been quite a bit of film work done in this community, and it's something we could play on, I think, to sort of enhance our image nationally, internationally, and sort of also work to sort of help the museum out in the preservation of the Persephone, expanding their Beachcombers collection. And so I think there's great potential there. We met briefly with Mayor Beamish, and you know, I think we probably need to look at sort of striking a committee to sort of to work towards it, because I think it's an incredible opportunity for, you know, the town to, you know, capitalize on something that helped us a lot in the past. Anyone who isn't doing anything on Thursday, I'm teaching a cooking class at the market for 12-year-olds. But age doesn't matter. Everyone's young at heart. That's it for me.
Do you have anything you want to add? Or?
Well, I attended the Gibsons Market. I had a great time. I had the opportunity to visit them. Actually, before it was quite interesting to go through, and the music was quite good. My friend was a DJ there, so I had a great time as well. I attended, obviously, Canada Day. You served the cake, helped Wendy, and yesterday we had a great meeting too. I would like to speak about it.
You can.
I'll let you do it.
Like me to do it? Okay.
Yeah, I'll let you do it.
Well, okay.
It was really good, by the way.
Thank you. Jason, did you want to say something? I'm sorry? Okay, I will. Okay. Just for everybody's knowledge, if you're not familiar with the night market, it is sponsored this year by House Sound Pulp and Paper, and they're sponsoring 3 night markets. So the last Friday of each month, I believe, is when they're doing it. Oh, no, so the Friday before the long weekends. That's correct, yeah, tied to the long weekends. So very popular event, and I really do encourage people to go down to it. If you like standing in crowds where you can't move your arms, it's a great place to be. I'll leave it there. I'd like to give a shout out to Janice Williams and the work that she's doing. If you're not familiar with what she's doing down at the Art Gallery, take the opportunity. I don't know, is it every second Tuesday? Do you know, Judith, is it every second Tuesday? But she has an open mic down there, and it's absolutely wonderful. And I've been down there twice, and it's not the old coffee house type of open mic, but it's a lot of fun and interesting to listen to, and I really encourage council to go down and take that opportunity. It's 2 hours from 7 till 9, and it's very interesting and very entertaining. And the last one was about rants. And I got to sit and listen to a number of people who had comments about town projects and about town things, and I got up and I thanked them for being able to talk about the issue, and that's what they talked about, sort of thing, and I appreciate that. So I also, May and June was a very busy time. It's a time when all these projects are trying to wrap up before the kids go to school. So we did also have 3 opportunities to go to school. We had an opportunity to go to the alternate school, which I went to with Mayor Seegers, and then the Chatleach School, and then also to Elphinstone School. A great opportunity to see the year end for kids. I wasn't able to go to the Elphinstone School one. I was at that time meeting with April Struthers and a group that came from Nottingham talking about dialogue. And they actually have a program there called Provoke Community Dialogue. And it's quite interesting. And if you get a chance to look it up on the computer, Provoke Community Dialogue, they've done it as a community effort. And I think possibly next year we'll look at doing something like that ourselves. Lots of SCRD meetings, interviews. We had meetings in Vancouver last Friday. I went over with the CAO and corporate officer to meet with Lisa Southern, a law group over there. I congratulate everybody involved with Canada Day. Wendy Gilbertson did a great job of organizing. The cake was great. The cake's plural. I was late in getting there. I was coming down a mountain. Canada Day is also my birthday, and I tend to stay away from busy places. But I did manage to get back there almost about 3 o'clock when I got down from Diamond Head and got home and cleaned up and enjoyed the last of the cake and got it into a pitcher, I think. So that was wonderful. All of council was there, and Stafford Lumley was the acting mayor and said a few words to open the ceremony. I am meeting later this week with April Struthers, and then after that with Joanna Ashworth. And I'm going to talk again about dialogue. Joanna Ashworth she's part-time relocated to the coast. She bought some property here. She was Dr. Ashworth. She was a dean for Simon Fraser for the Centre for Dialogue out of Vancouver. And I worked with her a lot when I was CAO here. I took all the programs, and I was actually on the municipal dialogue team for the province, working through Simon Fraser at that time. So that I'm going to have coffee with her and talk about dialogue issues. We're also meeting with the Seashell Nation for breakfast on Thursday, and Seashell Board. I'd like to let everybody know the annual report is now on our website. If you haven't had a chance to look at it, it will be on the next agenda of council, but it has to be out to the public before it comes on the agenda, so it is there. And we are moving forward towards a community dialogue on June the 30th. If you have an opportunity, we're looking for a location. I'm not convinced that this is the right room for a community dialogue, so we'll see what we can find as a better place where we can all sit around in a circle and take turns talking.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I believe it's July 30th.
Sorry, July 30th, not June. June would be gone, or next year. Yeah, so there's a lot happening, but it is getting more of a routine now of council for this next period of time, other than the fact that we are working towards August when we take time off and we have minimal meetings or perhaps no meetings. So that every Tuesday this month, right now we're having meetings, so we'll be busy this month. Yeah, that's all I have for myself. So now over to you, Jason. Thank you. Yeah.
Jason Lewis. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Councillor Kroll brought up, I was also at the graduation, oddly enough. Sasha and I did graduate. I am staying on the coast. For July, Sasha is in Montreal doing a French immersion program. I don't know the details of it, but I'm sure whatever it is, it's pretty exciting. She said that she only gets internet at like 3 a.m. or something like that. So whatever is happening, I'm sure it's exciting. At the ceremony, they invite people up with you who present the awards. And Councillor Kroll was called up when I was called up, and I assume that he was called up to recognize the youth councillor position. And when I sat back down and I was looking at the envelopes, I saw that it was actually for the Town of Gibsons bursary that I won. And so I'm looking at the page, and there's instructions to see how you write your thank you letter, and it shows the address for mayor and council, and I was like, I know these guys. So this is my letter to council and mayor regarding the Town of Gibsons bursary. Dear Mayor and Council, I am writing you this letter to thank you for your generous financial contribution to my education via the Town of Gibsons bursary. In September, I will move to the city where I will continue my passion and goal of continuing education in computer science. During the first year of university, I will be living on campus. After the first year, I will consider staying on campus or living off campus. In terms of education, I will almost certainly be going into software development. I will choose a more narrow specialization after further experience. I will be keeping a close eye on artificial intelligence, as that is a big thing companies are looking for these days, and I personally think it's fascinating. My head may be with politics, but my heart, however, will always be with computers. This award, in my opinion, is much more than just a piece of financial contribution, although that much is obviously appreciated. This award to me recognizes my involvement and political interest I have in the town. As I transition from high school to university, start living on my own, planning my own finances, making new friends, and experiencing the beginning of adulthood, which will be scary, I will run into many struggles. I am confident that I will work hard enough to overcome these and accomplish the best of my ability. One of these obstacles will be financial burdens. Your contribution will not go in vain, I guarantee it. And while I'm sure some of us will stay in contact, any of you please feel free to follow up at any time in my journey, and I will be pleased to let you know how things are going. I'm truly honored to receive this award. Thanks again. Signed, Jason Lewis. And so just so we're clear, the Town of Gibsons bursary is separate from the youth councillor position. But
it is.
I appreciate both opportunities.
And Jason, I can say once again how pleased and honored we were to have you and Sasha with us this year. And seeing you in front of us tonight and seeing your level of comfort in talking to us with council, I've seen growth in you in the last 6 months. So you may not recognize, but we certainly do.
I recognize it. I remember being very scared sitting in that seat.
Yeah. And there's nothing scary about this room.
I know.
Well, sometimes there is. But there's nothing scary about this room. We really appreciate you being here, and please, when you are back in town, as you're in town, drop in. And we can always use help with our computers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm somewhat mindful of the time. We have another meeting after this meeting yet, so thanks. But I do want to go on to correspondence. First one, the item from the Gibsons and District Public Library, request for a letter of support. Just a recommendation from council. We write that letter of support. Councillor Ledwig, Councillor Kroll, thank you. We'll write that. In many ways, it's an acknowledgement to the City of Victoria, thanking them and stating that we will support their resolution at UBCM. Annually at this time of year, a number of communities send those kind of letters out, so we see that. Council reading file, recommendation that council reading files for the week of ending June 10 to June 17 and June 24th be received. Councillor Kroll, Councillor D'Andrade, anything arising from those reading files that council would like to bring forward? I had marked the item, the letter from the Governor General, just to ensure that we actually acknowledge back to her, thanking her for her visit, and acknowledge that, and she had also asked for information about the youth program, and I think it'd be good timely now to send that to her if we could do that, please. And thank you. Anything else that anybody would like to specifically raise at this time? No. Councillor Kroll, did you have something? Or,
Just a couple of things. I did mention at one of our earlier council meetings about the letter or the speech that was given at the cadet event, and a copy of it is included in the June 10th thing, which I recommend is good reading. It's it was part of a speaking competition that Sergeant Cleland Shura won an award for, and it's a great thing about how our current society there's not enough human contact, and she talks about the withdrawal of the term she uses, I forget what it is right now, but it's just lack of contact. And she's written this beautiful piece on how we need to embrace one another once in a while and get over some of our hang-ups. So it's a great piece of reading. There's the invitation for the Sleepy Hollow car thing, August 10th. I think they're looking for a response for someone to attend.
Sleepy Hollow?
Yes, August 10th.
August 10th? Yeah, I won't be here myself. I'll be out of town. So you can take my MG if you want and take the run. Yeah.
That's a carrot I could not refuse. I have not driven an MG-B since 1964.
I'll test you out in it, and you're welcome to have the keys.
Okay. I will attend and represent the town then. I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah.
And British Racing Green is my favorite color.
Good. It's yours.
The other thing, just very briefly, is the Globe and Mail article, as Canada's habitats disappear, conservation needs to start on your doorstep. It's a very nice segue from the presentation we had this afternoon at the planning meeting about the preservation of some of our woodland areas. And I will leave it at that.
Okay. Any further items to be raised? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to next item is the 2019 UBCM resolutions from the Sunshine Coast Regional District. There's a number of resolutions. They're there for council's information and to understand that they will come forward for debate. Some will come forward for debate. Now, the actual practice is not all of them went to ABICC. So that ABICC ones will go ahead first, and then we'll see how how many hundreds of resolutions they have on in their book this year, and those will be the ones that will go forward. So, but they may get there, and sometimes at the end of the meeting they'll take them all in a block and put them forward. So we'll see what happens. Councillor Ledwig.
So would this be appropriate to write letters of support for these, just like we're doing for the library one?
No. What we will do
because
with these is we will be there and we will vote in support of them.
I see.
That's right, as we did for the ones that went to AVICC already.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so that unless there's ones you want to specifically vote against. Okay. So, all right. Yes, Councillor D'Andrade.
Would the town of Gibsons will be voting on in support to the climate emergency? The
Yes.
one that yes.
We already did on that one. That's how it got there. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah.
Yeah, we already did support that. Yeah.
Because you would have done that through the SCRD. Yeah.
AVICC. You see, AVICC considers a number of these resolutions, and then they forward them on to UBCM. So we already supported some of these at AVICC to get them on the table to UBCM.
Oh, I see. So these weren't generated from the SCRD?
Oh, yeah, no, they were. These were generated by the SCRD, but some of which were put forward earlier this year to AVICC.
Okay.
And then they go and they go there.
Right.
And then there are some new ones there as well, so I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, item 10.4 is the 2019 Livable City Forum in Victoria, and Councillor D'Andrade has requested authority to attend that from October 28th to 30th in Victoria as an alternative to attending the 2019 UBCM convention. And the recommendation that she be that the correspondence regarding Councillor D'Andrade's request be received, and that the reimbursement of registration for the fees and travel costs be approved for Councillor D'Andrade. Councillor Ledwig, Councillor Kroll, any discussion? Would you like to say something about it, Councillor D'Andrade?
I thought it was an excellent opportunity because I won't be able to attend the UBCM. And obviously this is a subject that I'm really interested. They would also discuss about, how cities are addressing climate change. And I thought it will be important to attend.
Councillor Kroll?
I had a brief conversation with the CAO. I felt if it were possible, it would be really useful if someone from staff were able to attend. In addition, just to take what's gleaned from this and be able to carry it forward past a political term. I would still recommend that if it were possible, it would be a great idea, but I understand we have some time constraints.
Well, we'll see if that comes forward. But it's always good. It's also good that every year UBCM is a big conference, and if it's the one conference you attend a year, then some of these other ones go by. So it's nice if we can share those and do different things and spread ourselves around. So that's really good. So Councillor Ludwig?
I just want to say I'm jealous. I think it looks great, and I'm really looking forward to hearing how it goes. I'm really glad you're going.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Okay, all right. Okay. Yeah.
I usually make a lot of notes, if you have noticed. I'm happy to provide a lot of feedback, And they usually provide also all the information package, so we can share. Yeah. And I can highlight what. Yeah, no problem.
Did we vote on that? No. We moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. Okay. No new business. I do have a notice of motion tonight, and I'll just read that out for everybody. This won't come back until the next meeting. Notice of motion that Council directs staff to prepare a checkout bag regulation bylaw similar to the ones adopted by the City of Victoria and the Municipality of Salish, and that the proposed checkout bag regulation bylaw come into effect on January 1, 2020, and further the draft bylaw be published on the town's website, as well as mailed to current holders of business licenses with a request for comment at least 30 days before the proposed bylaw is considered for first reading. Those two bylaws that they have, again, they've it's the getting rid of the single-use plastic bag at the checkout, and so that those are the bylaws, and the way they manage them is to simply pass bylaws prohibiting them. Now, Victoria's bylaw is currently being challenged in the courts. Salish's bylaw is being passed, but it is coming into force on January 1st, 2020. I'd like to see us move forward with a similar bylaw so that we have that in place also for January 1st, 2020. I'm not convinced that, I know the federal government has made moves to go in that direction, but we have to remember it is election promise. And election promises often get lost when the different parties don't get elected. So that my expectation is that we want to be ready and we want to move forward with this. It's also consistent, and I'm not talking out of turn, but it's consistent with the way that we heard in the business walk when we talked to businesses specifically about what would the impact be on them if we were to pass a bylaw to eliminate single-use plastic bags. And every one of the businesses that I talked to during that day said they would support it. All they wanted to be able to do was to exhaust their current supply. And that would be this season. So that's what we're looking at with them. So that's the direction we're moving. So that, but that's a notice of motion. We'll debate it at the next meeting. Okay. And inquiries, further inquiries. Now, a chance to ask us anything. Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, we might want to look at extending the meeting at this point if we're going to inquire.
Yes, we should probably do that anyway. Well, motion, I'd recommend motion to extend till 9:30. Councillor Kroll, Councillor D'Andrade, all in favor? It has to be unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Sorry, yes. Inquiries.
My name is Harriet Hunter. I live in Gibsons. I have a question to ask you, Mr. Mayor, and the councillors. I understand that yesterday, July 8th, you and the town managerial staff had a workshop session with a consultant on the subject of harassment and bullying. My question is can you now explain exactly what constitutes harassment and bullying?
Yeah. You know, it's like, I was thinking about that today. It's like threatening. You know, some of us feel threatened in different ways. My sense on harassment and bullying is when somebody comes and tells me that they've been harassed and bullied, I have to, as a manager, stop what I'm doing and deal with that issue and investigate that. And each one case is going to be different. Threatening is a similar way sort of thing. Somebody comes up and say they've been threatened, and they may not have been threatened. They may be a misunderstanding. It may be any number of things. It could be a body language thing. But harassment and bullying is one of whether it's been done by words, whether it's been done in emails, whether it's been done by actions. It's something we have to pay attention to. And I do attribute it to saying that if somebody believes they've been bullied and harassed, then I will deal with that matter at that time. But thank you for bringing that up, because it's a workshop that actually Councillor D'Andrade wanted me to speak to. And let me do that. We went out as a staff team. There were 16 of us, went to Linwood House. I don't know if you're familiar with that place. It's an excellent place if you ever want to have a workshop. It's in Roberts Creek. And we sat there with Greg Moore, who came over from Port Coquitlam. And we talked, and we were there till from 1:30 till almost 5:30, and talking among ourselves about issues. And it's like any meeting. You're going to have a meeting that ramps up, and you're going to have some loud voices and discussions at the top of that, and then you're going to have that further discussion and understanding later on. And everybody had a chance to talk about the how they feel that events of the last 7 years has impacted them, and how they feel that what we want to get forward to. Do we want to talk about issues? and we want to be open on those issues, and that's one thing that we are trying to do as well. Be open on the issues and be more open. There's been much more information now. If you've historically accessed our websites, I think now you'll find more information on our websites. We're going to be measuring somewhat of success is to reduce numbers of FOIs because we're hoping more information's out there, so that we're just kind of taking it one step at a time. As I say, I'm meeting with April Struthers. Any of you know April? She's on the coast here at Witt's Work, I think she is her business, and she does consulting on dialogue and excellent programs that she has. And as I say, lost the name for a minute, but the other lady, Dr. Ashworth, I'll be meeting with as well, and a long history of, she's one who took people from Israel to Palestine and from Palestine to Israel sort of thing on dialogue sort of thing. I'm not quite sure we're there yet, but we want to avoid getting there in terms of the nature of our challenges in the community. So, but we are working on those, and we really do want staff, and staff is solid on this. They want to work with everybody, and we do want to work on these issues, and we're well prepared to discuss them. We're going to be having the dialogue on the 30th, and the purpose of that dialogue is to start kind of understanding, just getting back to basics of how we work with each other, and what kind of things is we need to do to create an atmosphere of community in this room and outside this room, and that's what we want to do. I am waiting to have some kind of evaluation comments from staff. We haven't designed, I think our computer went down today. We're going to design a kind of a form to talk to all the staff, say, how did it work for you? Is that what we're looking for? But we are trying, and you know, I'll be very honest with you, we stepped out today for the very first time. We did a referral to the O'Shea Ocean Mount Community Association on a project. Now, we haven't done that before, and I want to encourage more community associations to become organized in Gibsons. I'm used to working in communities that have them. Sechelt has them, Victoria has them, a number of places that you get to know that they're there, and they become the voice for a neighborhood. And the more we can drive down from the community to a neighborhood to a block to neighbors talking to each other, the more we want to achieve that. So that's what we want to achieve. So that's where we were yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for asking. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Good evening, Council and Mr. Mayor and students. My name's Inga Harrison. I live at 325 Georgia Drive. Can I just say one little thing before I get to my questions?
You can.
It's about the RB. It's about, I can't even talk. It is about getting more signage down in Lower Gibsons to direct the tourists to the swimming that's available on Franklin Street, because they sort of think there's just the one down there they can see, or else they somehow find their way over to the dog park, as I call it, down Lower Gibsons. So I think it would be very helpful if we sort of opened up those features so they can find them.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. I have been to harassment workshops, and I know that they're great. It takes a while. You're all gung-ho at the beginning, and then you sort of seem to slide, because it's in you. Anyway, would FOI applications be considered bullying and or harassment?
I'm sorry?
Would FIOs applications...
FOI, no.
Yeah.
No, that's normal course of business.
Good. When the citizens request information from the town, is that harassment?
No.
No. What is it about asking for information that you consider harassment? And this is sort of an individual thing. Is it the tone of the voice? Is it the content? Is it the topic?
No, none of those things. It's the suggestion that by not providing information, the staff might be corrupt. It's the suggestion that referring matters of business of the town to the RCMP and to the Attorney General and that nature, not once, but more than once. Those are the kinds of things that become, how do you do business when you're being suggested that you're involved in criminal activity? That's the challenge that we have.
Yeah.
And that's why we've also reached out to those organizations and say, hey, come and talk to us, and we'll share with you what we've been doing.
Okay, I wish you luck.
Thank you.
My name's Judith Hamill. I'm a Gibsons resident and taxpayer, and perhaps a dissident, as well as a resident. I'd like to step back from this harassment and bullying stuff for just a moment and look at the more broad thing that's happening in society and maybe how it's infecting us. I mean, even just today, I think it is, or yesterday, the BCLA has come out with all this information about how protesters for the Northern Enbridge pipeline were being spied on by CSIS, by our own police force. They were hived off from the RCMP because the RCMP was doing this kind of thing, which is illegitimate. And CSIS was supposed to protect us from foreign, terrorists and things like that. Now they're spying on legitimately protesting citizens. And I think this whole accusation against legitimate protesters, as we have in this town, is really bogus. I think it's trying to label us as things that we're not in order to shut us up and tell us to go away. And I find it very distressing that that's what people who are persistent and insistent in wanting to get information that they're paying for out of their town are labeled that way. I mean, is it just a convenient a way to do away with inconvenient questions, to label people like that? Anyway, I'd just like you to have a think about that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good topic for the dialogue, and good discussion for the dialogue, and I'd welcome that. Yeah.
Hi, my name is... My throat is... I don't have a jug of water.
You can have a glass of water. Would you like...
It might not help. Anyways, my name is Rosa Reed, and I live on 1503 Thompson Road. Is the consultant you hired, Greg Moore, trained in bullying and harassment? What criteria did you base getting him on? I know he's a poor Coquitlam.
Well, he did actually. If you go back further, 2013, I believe he started a bullying for schools, a Stop Bullying for Schools program in Coquitlam, and he started that program. And then he's been involved with local government for 16 years, and both as a councillor, as a mayor. And he's been with UBCM on different things. So that's where his expertise comes a lot from experience, but also from working with his own community.
Yes, I can understand that, but I would have thought that you would hire either somebody, a mayor from the UBCM that is more knowledgeable about small town changes that happen.
Well, I took the recommendation from the president of UBCM.
Okay.
I said, who's the number one person you would go to? And Greg Moore was the number one person that Arjun Singh recommended.
Okay. Then I have a couple more things. If the consultation included public bullying and harassment and we weren't invited, the public was not invited, why not? I can understand why not, but what is really your intention going ahead? I hear the word dialogues, and dialogues to me don't seem to resolve anything. The word dialogue is not addressing the confrontational feeling that people have had and the rejection the community has felt. Dialogue is is okay, but I think it should go one step further.
Dialogue, I'm hoping dialogue will lead to a greater understanding on both parts.
Okay.
It's not, you never enter a dialogue with the purpose of changing people. You enter in dialogue with the purpose of people coming out with a better understanding of positions and issues and giving them a chance to think about it. And dialogue isn't a single time. Dialogue will be done monthly. Going forward,
this is excellent. That's excellent. But really, the problem is in the past, and there's reparation that has to be made. Going to the RCMP is the sign of that. You need to repair the past before you can move forward. Yeah. So you have to answer questions to the past and.
I appreciate that.
Satisfy.
And
it has to be so.
Yeah. Do you want that glass of water?
No, I'm going to do it that way. Anyways, once you repair the past, you can move forward with the proper dialogue.
Yeah.
So the last part of my thing is that because of allegations of public bullying, it was suggested that a legal organization such as the Integrity Group be hired. They're lawyers. They're out of Vancouver. And they have years of experience. They came to House Sound Pulp and Paper, where I worked years ago, and they have the best system I know of. I used it myself. So, anyways, they're very impartial. So they're not a mayor that may be biased. They're not.
No, don't get wrong with having Greg Moore come over and talk with staff about that was an opportunity to open up and have a conversation among staff, sort of thing, about some of the issues, some of the things they're feeling. It didn't resolve any of the ongoing issues. That's going to be resolved by dialogue. That's what I'm talking with Joanna Ashworth with, and April Struthers, and with the community.
Definitely, I can accept that, but I will accept that because I don't know him. But if you had gotten somebody that is legal, then you'd have had our trust, and that would have been a very good beginning. I
have talked to Lisa Southern of Southern Law, and they will be giving us a proposal.
Okay.
Yeah, that's in the works as well.
All right. Let's fix the past too. Okay.
Thank you. And she's legal. Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of being awfully free with the conversation tonight, but I understand his concerns, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate council's not jumping up in a point of order and shutting us down here right now. But we do have only 20 minutes, and we have another meeting to deal with. So thank you for your time, and thank you for your questions. Yeah. Okay, we are at that point in time when I have to read something else. I have to motion to close, recommendation that the meeting be closed in accordance with the community charter, section 90, C, G, and I of the community charter. Part of the council meeting may be closed. Subject of being considered relates to labor relations litigation and the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege. I need a glass of water. And, yes, a motion to close the meeting. Councillor Ladwig, Councillor Kroll.